Well, now, a school in London has had their best headmistress, and one of the best headmistresses, actually, in the UK, Michaela School, it is. She's the strictest headmistress, but now she's being taken to court. Wonder why? It's to do with wokeism, isn't it? And more radicalism in our primary schools, as we keep seeing almost weekly in the UK. Now, Miss Birbalsingh, who is one of the best-rated headmistresses, and has done so by getting her students against wokery, by getting them in their uniforms, ties up when they get into school, no more flags other than the British flag being woven in the playgrounds, and banning religious prayer, most importantly. A Muslim pupil, and more likely to be their parent, by the way, is now taking her to court to overturn that ban, saying it's their religious freedom that she is ruining. But her work speaks for itself, doesn't it? Her work speaks for itself. Her school is one of the best-rated schools in Britain, and that's because it's banned all this nonsense. It's focused on what is important in school, and that is education. Miss Birbalsingh says that by removing religious prayer and for everyone having to sacrifice something, you create cultural cohesion. Who would have thought it? Now, if we compare that to another school in East London, Berkeley Primary School, where radical Palestinian activist parents have shut it down now since December, where the kids haven't had an education for 2 months, you can see the stark difference. Those poor teachers in that school are getting death threats, they're getting racist phone calls, and there's even a bomb threat being sent into the school. So when we have a head teacher, like Mrs. Birbalsingh, who parents, by the way, sign a document saying that they are allowing their children to abide by all of these rules, so they know what they're getting into before they go to the school. When we have a great headmistress like that, and we allow them to be taken to court over something so simple, shouldn't we just ban religious prayer and ban this religious nonsense altogether? We cannot allow radical religious groups like this small sect of Islamists to run our schools as they have been doing across the country. We saw it not only last year with LGBT education in some schools being completely stopped and the schools being absolutely barred from entry. We must get on top of this absolute nonsense wokery. We've got to get on top of this radicalism and then do something great, ban religious prayer in schools and make it fair for everybody. Now, Albie, what do you think about this sort of ban?
Look, I think you've got to be careful when you're calling Muslim parents that want their children to practice Islam Islamists. I think that you've got to be careful when you say that. But my point would be, look, I think it's probably right in a secular school for kids not to be allowed to leave lessons and go and pray. But what I would say is, I would suspect that you disagreed with the ban on prayers outside abortion clinics. And isn't it a little bit inconsistent to say you're pro-prayer ban in this secular school instance, but anti-prayer ban outside abortion clinics?
I see the radical Islamist bit. I'm mostly referring to the school in, I think it was Bradford or somewhere, that was shut down because they were teaching LGBT education.
Well, those making threats as well. They are.
Well, they are making.
If you are threatening someone, a teacher, because they're not allowing prayers, then I'm sorry, but you are.
Look, I just think we've got to be careful when we throw around the word Islamist. But on the second point about the abortion clinic prayer ban, which I support, you, I presume, if I'm right, would not support that, but you do support a prayer ban in this context. How can both be right?
Well, I don't think people being sort of intimidated outside abortion clinics is a good thing, because people have abortions for different reasons. So I do think there should be some consideration as to what goes on outside.
Should there be a prayer ban?
Well, I haven't really thought about what, and I don't think it's a really big issue.
Don't worry, we can tell you haven't thought about it.
Well, I haven't thought about prayer ban outside of an abortion clinic, but I've certainly thought about what the impact of it happens in schools, and it causes division, and we actually
I don't see how they're comparable.
Look, it's a prayer ban, that's why it's comparable.
I think the issues of parents being aggressive and using illegal levels of threats against teachers in a school is clearly unacceptable. The question here at this free school in Brent is that 30 pupils were praying in the playground. There is no prayer room for them to do it privately. Now, there's no suggestion that they would come out of lessons to do that, and that wouldn't be OK if it were. But I find this difficult because, first of all, there is no contradiction between good discipline and well-behaved kids and wanting to privately pray maybe twice during the school day. They pray 5 times a day generally, I think, Muslims. And so I think it's wrong to conflate those. And the fact is that, I went to a secular secondary school which would have Christian prayers during the day. It would reference Christian hymns. And so I doubt you'd want to ban that. I think every other school can have Muslims happily there. Why can't this?
I think it's a faith school. He's talking about.
I didn't go to a faith secondary school, and there were plenty of references to Christianity.
Yeah, but the issue we have is that we live in a climate at the moment where our authorities and people in government are scared about criticising or scrutinising one particular religion. We see that anyway. You know, you can absolutely tear to shreds Christianity, but people don't have the same courage when they want to openly and publicly scrutinise Islam, for example. Now, I've spent a lot of time in Muslim countries. I have fantastic conservative Muslim friends who have said to me many times, what is going on in the UK? Why is there such a soft touch to Islamists who demand that the country changes for them? And we do have...
Can I just clarify?
There have been threats... Let me finish. I'm just talking for 30 seconds. Please, men. These Muslim children are being threatened by the more extreme Muslims. It is Muslim children that are being threatened. My Muslim friends hate the radical Islamism. In my opinion, radical Islamism is akin to Nazism, and because it's an issue in this country,
that's very different.
We need to make rules that they are absolutely forbidden to force schools to threaten schools to change them quickly for their needs.
I think it's deeply offensive to suggest that Muslim kids wanting to privately pray, as is their religion, is in any way equivalent to extremists or terrorists. You wouldn't say to an Anglican or a Catholic school that those kids that express their Christianity are akin to Christian terrorists. That is pure bigotry.